Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of GodSaw's Turnbuckle, the wrestling video podcast here on YouTube. It's a little bit of a different week, and this week we're actually doing the Impact Wrestling review before we're doing any of the WWE stuff because I've kind of yet to get through everything, and I'm going to do all the WWE stuff this week in one go. So that's programming notes for the for other periods of time. Also, things I'm working on in the terms of the wrestling side. I decided to do some stuff with Fire Pro Wrestling World. I'll be working on that over the next couple of weeks. Hopefully, we'll have something out here within that time frame. The first thing, definitely, at least the first things I know I'll have done and probably out at some point in time is simulations towards both NXT TakeOver Brooklyn and the SummerSlam pay-per-views. But I also have a few other things planned out down the line here for that as well. So we're going to continue on with that, and maybe things will transfer over into 2K18, or they'll stay with Fire Pro Wrestling. I like Fire Pro Wrestling a lot, actually. I've actually been trying to learn the game a little bit, but for the most part, in the terms of simulations, everything in that sense, it will probably be based around the CPU and everything to go along with it. But that's for programming notes for down the line. I'm gonna try to do a big, longer show tomorrow with all the WWE side, but this one's gonna focus around GFW Impact Wrestling for I was about to say September, but it's only July 27th, 2017. And this episode, you know what? This episode had a mixed bag. I am not going to lie to you. This one had a mixed bag of everything in this one. And for the most part, in the terms of the matches, I thought everything was rather well done, everything in that sense. But you had a bunch of other kind of weirdness to most of the other things. So let's get off right off the bat here. So they continued on this whole aspect of Grado. They start off the show with Grado and Joseph Park, and Joseph Park was talking him into proposing to Laurel Van Ness later in the evening, and you had a couple of segments like this throughout the show, everything like that, until they led up to that. I'll talk about that a little bit later, because they did start off, in the terms of the in-arena area, right off with a match. It ended up being Eli Drake, Chris Adonis, and EC3 going up against Eddie Edwards, Marufuji, and Moose. What was actually a really, really good match. In the terms of everything, this feels like it's a match that's kind of just thrown together, everything in that sense, though you do have the aspects of where Marufuji and Moose have this beef with EC3. Eddie Edwards is kind of there. And so it's kind of same with Eli Drake and Chris Adonis as well. Though Eli Drake did get a win over Moose in that Fatal 4-Way the week before. But this was a good match. This was a very good match, actually. I actually did rather enjoy this one. It came off just being really a really good six-man tag throughout from start to finish. EC3 getting the victory in the end on Moose, and what I think he called later, it was the ECD or the Ethan Carter Destroyer. Oh no, Ethan Carter Driver. That's what he called it. The Ethan Carter Driver. So it's like a new finisher for him that he hit on Moose, which is basically what was it from Stevie Ray? I forget what he called it. But it's the underhook, and then it's almost like a Styles Clash, but it's not the Styles Clash. It's an underhook driver to the mat. Yeah, again, really enjoyable one. They also announced for next week that EC3 was going to go up against Moose for the Impact Grand Championship. So we're gonna have that continuation with that, and now we're gonna have the one-on-one match with EC3 and Moose at this point in time. So after this, you had Bobby Lashley. He comes out, basically demanding Bruce Pritchard to come out again to actually give him the title shot. He so requested, everything in that sense. So he comes out there, it's like he tries to play a little bit nice. I like how he tries to play a little bit nice. Like, it would be greatly appreciated if you would come out and give me that world title shot that I have been demanding again. So Bruce Pritchard does come out, and before he even really utters too much, he goes off on this whole bit again. It's kind of like him not really caring too much in the terms of how people are going around and demanding everything and this and that. Though it's like he basically is just letting people do what they want, with the exception of a guy, trying to reclaim stolen property that was unrightfully taken from him. That's a no-go, and you're going to get kicked out of the arena for that one. I'll talk about that one again a little bit later on that. But before Bruce Pritchard gets into anything else, Matt Sydal interrupts again, and basically is like he doesn't want to be ignored. He wants his shot at I'm assuming it's the X Division title or something like that was what he was requesting the week before. But Lashley tries to just kind of keeps ignoring him, and he goes like, I will not be ignored. He eventually gets shoved by Lashley. It looks like Lashley's going to spear him, but he gets kneed in the face, and then he gets the shooting star press. So Sydal gets the better of Lashley at that point in time, which prompts Bruce Pritchard later on the show because he just leaves. Like I said, he doesn't care unless you're trying to reclaim stolen property. Again, I'll get to that one later. But he does announce for Destination X that Bobby Lashley and Matt Sydal will have a one-on-one match, and the winner of that match will get a respective title shot in some way, which is kind of weird that both guys aren't just like sitting there asking for their different title shots, but now they have to fight for what you would assume would be different ones. Lashley wants the world title, but I think Sydal wants the X Division title shot. I'm still trying to fully figure that one out. Or does he want a world title shot now? I mean, technically everybody should want a world title shot, so there's that. But yeah, there's a little bit of weirdness to this particular one, and we'll see where everything goes here. But honestly, the way that Bobby Lashley works with most people here, this should be a really good match at the Destination X show, which is going to be here in the next few weeks. I think they said it's in 3 weeks. So this actually brings us in, speaking of Destination X, this brings us into the Super X Cup, the last first round match, which was Davey Richards going up against Taijiro Ishimori, I believe is the... I butchered the first name, but Ishimori. He's from Pro Wrestling Noah. They do give a couple of promos again beforehand. Davey Richards is kind of in this calm, I don't really feel this type thing, and you kind of figure that out throughout the entire match. Is that Davey Richards is just kind of like it's almost like he's playing the checked out type person, where he's not really like he feels like he's above the Super X Cup. The match was good, but I like how Davey Richards was like hesitating, doing all this different stuff. It's like I don't really care, blah blah blah. But in the end, the match itself I thought was a really good one. I like the way that Davey Richards was depicting himself, everything in that sense, and the fact that he was overconfident in everything led to his downfall as Ishimori picks up the victory in the end over Davey Richards and advancing on in the Super X Cup, which again, really good match. Like I said, most of the matches that you saw throughout the night, which was one way of going with it, were pretty good for the most part. Which, speaking of another good match, you had Rosemary and Sienna in the last knockout standing match for the knockouts and the GFW women's title, or the unified title. Again, really good match. They go throughout the entire arena. You have this spot where Rosemary does like a reverse tarantula on Sienna using the like the crowd barricade and everything in the stands and everything in that sense. Like it even gets to the point that KM has to come out. You have a spot where Sienna does an AK-47 off of the apron, making Rosemary land on the ground. Was a good spot as well. They came up with some pretty decent spots in this one for last knockout standing. The ending came where KM wants to get involved, but he gets hit with the miss by Rosemary, which actually allows for Sienna to hit Rosemary with a garbage can and send her crashing to the ground through a table, and she could not answer the 10 count. Again, I thought this was a really good match between both on all sides there. I thought it came off looking pretty good in every way, shape, or form. So up next, you had a couple I'll talk about a couple promos here. They were in two different segments, but you had Alberto El Patron and LAX. You had LAX in their clubhouse, both of them basically talking about the match for later in the night, where El Patron goes up against all of LAX in a gauntlet match. You had, El Patron talking about revenge, everything in that sense for what they had done to his family, everything to go along with it. LAX basically said, going through their game plan for the night and who was going to go first, which I think they said it was going to be Homicide in the end, and that, don't worry, we're going to, focus on some injuries or something to go along with it. I like these promos. I thought they came off relatively good in every way, shape, or form. So you have so before we get to the main event, we have a couple of other segments to go through here, which was first one was Trevor Lee. Still, walking around with the X Division title. He says he was going to bring out somebody, one of the great luchadors and everything in that sense. And we've seen this guy a couple times now. But he brings out Octagoncito to have a match with him. Everything to go along with it. They do a little bit of a back and forth where Trevor Lee's trying to depict that he's got the advantage, everything in that sense. He's still wearing the X Division title. He refuses to take off the X Division title during matches. I actually kind of like this. It's not bad. This portion is not bad. I like how he refuses to take the title off because he's afraid that what if he does, Sanjay Dutt's just going to come out there and reclaim his property to go along with it. In everything in that sense. But in the match, Octagoncito basically takes control for a little bit, and Trevor Lee ends up getting himself counted out. Him still being delusional, claiming he's the X Division champion to go along with everything. This does prompt Sanjay Dutt to come out, which, yet again, Bruce Pritchard has been giving off this whole vibe. It's I don't care, whatever, just, okay. But, a guy coming out to try to reclaim stolen property. Oh no, get security. Stop him and kick him out. Get him out of here. It's but he wants his... It's just completely backwards. To be honest with you, it really is. Logic on that one. And by that I mean, take your logic and throw it behind you and out the window to go along with it. It's he doesn't care that Trevor Lee has stolen the X Division title and is keeping it, but he's absolutely refusing to allow Sanjay Dutt to do anything to get it back. Okay. Okay. And if, security stops him, takes him out of the arena. Again, it's that segment, I like certain things, I don't like other things. It's the logic to it. I get it, wrestling logic and everything in that sense, but yeah, they could play a little bit better logic on that one. Make it where Sanjay Dutt, attempts to get the title back, but Trevor Lee finds a clever way to get, squirm out or something like that, instead of no, you've been kicked out of the arena for trying to get back what is yours. Nope. Okay. So, up next, before the main event, you had Grado come out. He had Joseph Park with him. And he's basically going to have Laurel Van Ness come out so he can ask him to marry her. And they come up with, these one-liners, everything in that sense. And after he says it, you have this weird little bit where Allie's out there, trying to cheer on everything. Which was really weird because, they have a beef against each other. Braxton Sutter comes out and that was very random. But before you get an answer from Laurel Van Ness, Congo Kong comes out, which he ends up chasing Grado and Joseph Park away, and basically ruining the chances of Grado being able to get married because they're playing the whole deportation thing on that one as well. I don't know what to feel feel about the storyline. There's a piece of me that doesn't really care for it. There's a piece of me that recognizes that they've done some decent comedy in this one as well, in the terms of their backstage stuff. This in-ring segment, again, with the whole randomness of Ali and Braxton Sutter just randomly showing up in there as well. It's like, wait a minute, what's going on? It's one of those what's going on moments. So, this brings us to the main event of the night, which was Alberto El Patron going up against LAX in a gauntlet rules match. So, one person starts, you have a match, and if the person continues on throughout the whole thing, one person gets eliminated, next person comes in, blah, 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 blah. So Homicide starts off. So he's having his first match since being back, and it lasts all of 10 seconds. Again, I've said this before, and I'll say it again. What's the point of Homicide right now in LAX? It's like he doesn't really do anything. If they're protecting him because he's injured, that's fine. Everything in that sense, but they're not really saying much of anything. And like they put him in a match here, and he gets eliminated like that. It's like, what's the point here? And to be honest, for you, this entire time, at least in the terms of the matches, he makes Homicide look extremely weak. He makes Ortiz look extremely weak in the match. Ortiz was the second guy in there. He gets eliminated via the hanging stomp move. He lasts a little bit longer, but that match wasn't much longer. And then Santana was last. He also kind of goes through Santana like it's almost nothing. It ends, which is hilarious. It ends in DQ, though it could have ended in DQ like 3 minutes beforehand, where they were attacking Alberto El Patron. All of them were on the outside of the ring with the referee just looking at it. And then eventually it's like as soon as they get in the ring, that's when he calls for the DQ. To be honest with you, like all the other matches that we had on the show tonight were actually kind of good, with the exception of this one. I thought this was a poor match, poor main event. They do, after the match, they do continue on, finally get the advantage over Alberto El Patron, start beating him down after the match. Both his father and brother come out to try to even the odds. It doesn't come to fruition. They kind of fail in that sense. And the Veterans of War come out to make the save, which eventually they kind of don't fully gain the advantage, but it does allow Alberto El Patron to chase LAX away with using a chair. To be honest with you, I didn't care for this main event segment all that much. I thought the match in general came off rather poor. And yeah, they're going to continue on with this whole probably this whole LAX Veterans of War thing, which they had done before for a quick period of time. They didn't really, I don't know if they really dabbled all the way through this particular storyline, but it looks like they'll be joining up with Alberto El Patron for the time being. We'll see where they go with that, though, in that sense. I mean, like I said, this particular thing, like the stuff we had seen over the last couple weeks, have been pretty good. This was just a little bit poor. Like the match itself, like I said, like Alberto El Patron kind of makes LAX, in the terms of each of these matches, look like they're scrubs. Even though they're the tag team champions from both sides, from the unified tag team champions in the terms of having the GFW titles and the Impact titles at the same time. And yeah, I did not like the main event. The rest of the show was was wishy-washy. I like the matches on the show. The segment with Matt Sydal and Lashley I thought was pretty good as well. This weird logic that they're throwing out there that pretty much everybody's allowed to do anything with the exception of Sanjay Dutt trying to gain back his stolen property. We're going to kick you out of the arena for that one. That's a little bit weird. Yeah. Most cases, I rather enjoyed Impact Wrestling, and there was enjoyable spots in this show. Let's not get this wrong. There were enjoyable spots in there, and I thought there were some enjoyable segments in there, and the matches themselves were rather good. Also, you have the match with Moose and EC3 next week, and we can see where like I said, for the most part, I've kind of enjoyed this Alberto El Patron LAX stuff so far. This week was not so good, but we'll see where they go with everything in the upcoming weeks and everything in that sense, and where they go along with everything here. And also this, and again, like I said, there's been some good stuff with the whole Grado thing. I've never been the biggest Grado fan. Grado, Joseph Park, the Laurel Van Ness stuff, I thought has been pretty good. This week was all right. It was all right. They just had some weirdness in there, especially like randomly having Allie and Braxton Sutter out there. Like the Congo Kong thing at the end makes sense. It's like, why was Allie and Sutter just out there randomly? You got me on that one. Yeah, you got me on that one. So, again, this was kind of a mixed bag for Impact Wrestling this week. So, yeah, we'll see where everything goes, and we'll see how everything ends up being next week with everything. And, yeah, that's pretty much everything I have for GFW Impact Wrestling. I thank you guys for watching. I hope you enjoyed everything. And I hope you enjoyed this episode of GodSaw's Turnbuckle. And, like I said, for a programming note, probably tomorrow or Saturday, I'm trying to figure out which one's going to end up being. You'll probably see everything on the terms of the WWE side. And, yeah, that's pretty much everything I got for you. I hope you have a great rest of your day.